My family mocked my useless design degree. Now they're broke, desperate, and begging me for money, while I build a multi-six-figure empire. I, a 27-year-old male, have to start from the beginning. I've been grinding for years to build my business while my family treated me like total garbage and compared me to my deadbeat brother. It's literally been this way forever. Growing up in my house was like being told, "You're playing for the wrong team 24/7. My parents were obsessed with practical careers, especially my mom, Karen. Yeah, literally Karen. Her whole philosophy was basic as hell: get a real job, make real money, and don't waste time on anything creative. But it wasn't just about jobs, it was this sick obsession with status and credentials. Our living room was basically a shrine to fancy degrees and alumni associations. My mom had her Cornell diploma framed in this ridiculous gold frame right above the fireplace. My dad's Yale law degree hung next to it, even though he worked as a corporate mid-level manager and never practiced law a day in his life. They were dues-paying members of every alumni club within 50 miles and wouldn't shut up about it. Every family dinner somehow turned into this weird flex competition. Did you hear that Johnson's son got into Princeton? Or the Miller's daughter just got accepted to medical school at Johns Hopkins? It was exhausting. They'd literally rank our neighbors based on where they went to college. Anyone who went to a state school might as well have been invisible. My dad, Tom, acted chill, but that was complete nonsense. He'd pretend to listen before dismissing everything I said. And my older brother, 29-year-old Jared, the ultimate con artist? Dude was failing most of his classes in college, barely keeping a 1.9 GPA in some generic business program, but somehow convinced my parents he was on track to be the next Elon Musk. He made fake PowerPoint slides to show investment growth and convinced my parents he was a genius entrepreneur. He even once claimed he met a Goldman Sachs guy at Subway and spun it into a fake internship. Meanwhile, he was working part-time at a vape shop. Me? I was treated like something they found stuck to their shoe, not because I was some troublemaker. I kept decent grades, stayed out of trouble. I just had the audacity to pursue graphic design. I still remember the exact moment I told them I was going to study graphic design. We were having Sunday dinner, and my mom was going on about her friend's kid who got into Harvard Law. "I've decided on my major," I said during a moment of silence. "I'm going to study graphic design." The silence that followed was deafening. My mom froze. My dad's face went completely blank. "You're joking," my mom finally said, acting like I'd announced I wanted to be a professional bubble blower. "No, I'm not. I'm really good at it. And there's solid career potential." My dad cut me off. "No son of mine is going to waste 4 years drawing pictures. This isn't kindergarten. It's not drawing pictures. It's... What will we tell people? That our son is an artist?" I didn't back down though, and that's when the Cold War really started. I think what pissed them off most was that I refused to play their stupid social climbing game. My parents were so caught up in appearances that they couldn't understand someone choosing a career based on actual passion. They saw college as a way to collect bragging rights, not pursue something meaningful. Truth is, I'd been designing stuff since I was about 12. Started with basic Photoshop stuff, making memes before memes were even a thing. By high school, I was redesigning logos for fun, creating custom graphics for my friends' social media, even designing t-shirts for school events. My classmates thought my designs were sick. I even made a few $100 selling custom poster designs to kids for their dorm rooms. But when I showed my work to my parents, nothing but eye rolls and sighs. By senior year of high school, the battle lines were drawn. I was applying to art schools with strong design programs, while my parents were accidentally leaving Wharton Business School brochures on my bed. The day my acceptance letter from the Rhode Island School of Design came was both the best and worst day of my high school life. Best because I got in with a partial scholarship. Worst because my mom literally threw the letter in the trash when she thought I wasn't looking. I fished it out later, smoothed the crumples, and kept it hidden in my desk drawer like some kind of forbidden treasure. That night at dinner, my mom casually mentioned, "Good news. Your father pulled some strings and got you a guaranteed interview at State University's business program. Isn't that wonderful?" Jared chimed in. "Business is where the real money is, bro. Don't be stupid." I just stared at my plate, seething, knowing they had no idea I'd already accepted RISD's offer. The worst part was how they never straight up told me to quit. They just constantly undermined me. My mom would look at my design projects and go, "That's interesting," in that tone that clearly meant that's garbage. My dad would walk past while I was working and drop comments like, Mike from church just got his son a position at his engineering firm, starting at $85,000, then walk away. My first year at RISD was rough financially. My parents' final attempt to force me into business school was refusing to pay a cent toward my design education. I had some scholarship money, but not enough. Had to work 2 part-time jobs between classes just to cover rent for this tiny apartment I shared with 3 other students. One job at the campus print shop, another delivering food on weekends. Meanwhile, Jared got a full ride at home. My parents paid his tuition at State University's mediocre business program, covered his apartment, gave him a monthly allowance, and even bought him a new MacBook for school, which he mainly used to watch Netflix. And despite all that support, he still barely passed his classes. I had to grind 10 times harder than Jared just to be acknowledged as a functioning human. He got automatic respect from everyone in the family, despite doing absolutely nothing to earn it. When I graduated with honors, my dad just checked his watch during the ceremony. When I landed my first real client, a freaking restaurant chain, my mom just sighed. Meanwhile, Jared got praised for making up stories about his business connections and investment portfolio. He'd be like, "Just closed a deal that's going to net me 6 figures next quarter," and they'd practically throw him a parade. In reality, he was working part-time at a vape shop and borrowing money from his friends to keep up appearances. My cousin Zach was the only one who ever noticed the nonsense. He'd catch my eye across the table sometimes and give me this little nod that said, "I see this happening too." But he lived out of state, so most of the time I was alone dealing with their crap. During my sophomore year, I entered a national design competition on a whim. I spent weeks perfecting this interactive poster series for a fictional eco-friendly product line. I put my whole soul into it, working until 3 o'clock in the morning most nights, skipping meals to fine-tune details, even missing a midterm in my color theory class. Had to beg the professor for a makeup test. When the results came in, I couldn't believe it. Honorable mention, and a $2,500 prize. Not first place, but still huge for a sophomore competing against seniors and grad students. I was so excited I actually called home, breaking my usual rule of minimal contact. My mom answered. "Hey Mom, guess what? I just won honorable mention in that national design competition, the one with over 3,000 entries." There was a pause on the line. "That's nice, honey. Did you get Jared's text? He just had lunch with Dad's college roommate's son who works at Goldman Sachs. They're discussing internship opportunities." And that was it. Topic closed, my achievement instantly overshadowed by Jared's lunch. What made it worse was that Jared's big lunch meeting was complete BS. I found out later from Zach that Jared had just bumped into the guy at a sandwich shop, exchanged like 2 sentences, and then fabricated this whole career opportunity scenario. Classic Jared move. The pattern continued all through college. Every achievement of mine got downplayed while Jared's most basic functioning as a human got celebrated. I rebranded a microbrewery. Jared managed to not fail his marketing 101 class. Steak dinner. By senior year, I'd stopped sharing my accomplishments entirely. What was the point? I focused on building relationships with professors who actually valued my work and networking with industry professionals who came to our portfolio reviews. I was laying the groundwork for a career while my family was busy planning Jared's imaginary Forbes cover shoot. When graduation approached, I skipped the family dinner my parents half-heartedly suggested. Instead, I celebrated with my actual support system, my roommates, a few close friends from the design program, and 2 professors who'd become mentors. After college, things got even more twisted. I started making decent money with my design business. Not yacht-buying rich, but enough to afford a nice apartment and not worry about groceries, around $75,000 a year. Pretty solid for a graphic designer in my area. My first big client after graduation was this up-and-coming fitness app that needed a complete brand identity. The founder was this former athlete who'd been screwed over by a major sports brand, so he was all about supporting independent creators. We clicked right away, and he referred me to 3 other startups in his network. Suddenly, I had a real client list and steady income. That's when my parents started acting weirdly interested in my life again. My mom would call with suspicious frequency, asking detailed questions about my little design business. My dad started inviting me to golf, which I hate, and asking casual questions about my finances during drives between holes. Then they started treating me like their freaking wallet. My mom would randomly text stuff like, "Electric bill is $342 this month. Sending you my Venmo," like I was just expected to cover it. My dad started casually suggesting he could use a little help with property taxes or a new roof. And Jared? He was never asked for a freaking dime. The request started small, almost reasonable. "Jim, the hot water heater broke. Could you help us out this one time?" Or, "Jim, your grandmother's medical bills are piling up. Can you chip in?" I later found out from Grandma that they never gave her a cent of what I sent. Soon it was a regular thing. Every month, like clockwork, some new emergency would pop up. The car needed repairs, the AC unit died, property taxes were higher than expected, house insurance went up, on and on. One night, after dinner, when my parents hit me up for money to repair their deck, I finally asked the question. "Why doesn't Jared ever chip in for any of this stuff?" I asked, looking directly at my brother, who was scrolling through his phone, completely checked out. My mom's face hardened. "Your brother is focused on his studies and building his investment portfolio. He's laying groundwork for the future. He graduated 3 years ago, and he works at a vape shop," I said flatly. My dad stepped in. "That's just temporary. He has major business deals in the pipeline that require his full attention. Not everyone can afford to divide their focus like you can with your hobby." Jared didn't even look up from his phone, just smirked. "So I'm making enough from my hobby to support myself and help you guys out, but he can't contribute anything because he's too busy with imaginary business deals?" I pushed. "You don't understand the business world, Jim," my mom said dismissively. "Sometimes you have to spend money to make money. Your brother is making important connections." "Yeah, Jim," Jared finally chimed in. "Some of us are playing the long game." At first, I helped because I felt guilty saying no. They were still family, right? Started with small stuff, $200 here, $500 there, but it didn't take long before I was sending them around $1,000 a month. That's not a typo. $1,000 a month to people who treated me like garbage. My best friend, Marcus, was the only one who saw what was happening. "Dude, they're treating you like an ATM, not a son," he'd tell me over dinner. I knew he was right, but breaking free from that guilt isn't easy. The most messed up part was how my parents would casually drop these financial requests into conversation like they were nothing. My mom once called me, supposedly to check how I was doing, spent exactly 45 seconds asking about my life, then launched into a 15-minute monologue about how they needed $1,200 for a new washer and dryer. When I hesitated, she snapped, "It's not like you need the money for anything important." Not important? I was saving for a professional-grade camera setup that would let me expand my services to include product photography for clients. But in their eyes, anything related to my career was just a frivolous expense. The hypocrisy was what really killed me. My parents lived in a 4,000-square-foot house in an upscale neighborhood. Dad drove a luxury sedan. Mom had designer purses worth thousands. They cruised the Caribbean, while I budgeted ramen and gas money to pay their bills. Jared, of course, lived rent-free in their guest house. Drove a car my parents had bought him, which he regularly dented, and received a monthly business investment from them that he blew on designer clothes and fancy restaurants where he'd try to impress people with his fake business cards. By this point, I was essentially funding 3 adults' lifestyles while being treated like the family disappointment. The crazy thing is, I knew it was happening but still couldn't break free from the guilt trip cycle. It's like they had this psychological hold on me. They'd trained me since childhood to seek their approval, and even though I knew it would never come, some part of me kept hoping. Every time I'd consider cutting them off financially, I'd get hit with another story about how they might lose the house, or how Jared was this close to landing a huge investment deal that would fix everything, and like an idiot, I'd send more money. My own life was on hold. That camera equipment I wanted? Postponed indefinitely. The design studio space I dreamed of renting? Not happening. The advanced design courses I wanted to take to expand my skills? Too expensive after covering my parents' latest crisis. It took a random comment from a client to finally make me see how messed up this situation was. I was negotiating a contract for a major website redesign, and when I quoted my price, the client said, "That seems low for someone with your portfolio. Don't undersell yourself." Then came the 4th of July weekend, when everything imploded. My mom organized another backyard barbecue with all the relatives. I wasn't excited, but I went anyway. Some pathetic part of me still hoped they'd see me as worthy. This was their annual tradition, inviting the extended family over to show off their house, their stuff, and of course, Jared's business genius. Each year, I'd sit quietly in the corner, ignored, except when someone needed a fresh drink or more ice. The barbecue was typical. Jared was the center of attention, telling everyone about his latest business venture that was about to revolutionize the industry. Complete BS, but they all nodded like he was some kind of genius. What they didn't know was that I'd accidentally left my AirPods on the patio table when I went to grab more ice, and they were still connected to my phone with Live Listen turned on. I heard the entire conversation through my phone in real time while I was in the kitchen. When I came back outside, I casually picked up my AirPods without saying a word, just listening to them trash me while smiling to their faces. There was my mother, laughing as she said, "Jim's little drawing hobby is still going, I guess. At least it pays our bills." My father added, "Still don't understand how people pay actual money for that computer doodle crap." Jared chimed in that I'd probably be living in our basement if they didn't take my money every month. Then the conversation got even more savage. My dad casually mentioned it was a good thing I helped them financially because otherwise, that art degree would be completely worthless. My mom added, if he were actually smart, he would have followed Jared's path into business. And Jared, that fraud, leaned back in his chair and said, "It's fine. He'll figure out he's not a real designer eventually. He can't keep pretending forever." Then my dad started showing off his new watch, the $6,000 Omega I'd paid for as his retirement gift last month, while saying, "At least the boy's good for something." I drained my savings for that Omega watch because he kept hinting, thought it would finally make him proud. Turns out, it just bought him another prop to flex while calling me a joke. The day I gave it to him, he'd barely smiled. Just a quick thanks before putting it on and immediately turning to show Jared, saying, "See, this is the quality I was telling you about." Now I knew what he really thought of the gift, and of me. The worst part? Everyone was laughing. Not a single person said, "Hey, that's not cool." My uncle, who I'd helped design a website for his business for free, was chuckling along. My aunt, who'd asked me for free design work for her church group dozens of times, was nodding in agreement. I stood there, frozen, AirPods in my ears, hearing my entire family mock me. That's when I realized this wasn't just my parents and Jared. This was the entire family culture. Success was only measured in certain careers and status symbols. Anything creative was seen as less than, regardless of how much money or fulfillment it brought. In that moment, something inside me just snapped. All those years of trying to prove myself, seeking validation, hoping they'd eventually see my worth. It all felt so pointless. I'd been chasing the approval of people who were incapable of giving it because they didn't value what I valued. I drove back to the house, put on a smile, and played along for the rest of the day, all while mentally calculating exactly how I was going to cut them off. The next day, I sat down and made a spreadsheet of every cent I'd given them over the past 3 years. The total made me physically sick, $78,945. That wasn't help. That was a slow-motion robbery. I stopped responding to their texts, didn't pick up calls, just started doing what had to be done. First, I logged into all my banking apps and canceled every recurring transfer I had set up for them. Then I called my financial advisor and made sure they couldn't access any of my accounts as authorized users. Next, I called my credit card companies and removed them as authorized users there too. Then I did something that would actually hit them where it hurt. I called their mortgage company. 6 months ago, when they refinanced their house, I had co-signed the loan because my dad had some credit issues after a failed investment. The bank wouldn't approve them without my signature. They promised to make all the payments on time, of course. "I'd like to check on a mortgage I co-signed," I told the customer service rep. "Have the payments been made on time?" They hadn't. 3 months behind. My parents had been taking the mortgage money I sent them and spending it on other things. "Can you tell me how much is needed to bring the account current?" I asked. $8,427, including late fees, she replied. I made that payment to bring it current, but noted that I wouldn't be making any future payments. The primary borrowers needed to handle it themselves going forward. After I hung up, I texted my mom, "I've made the last payment on your mortgage. Now you're on your own. Do not contact me again." Then I blocked her number. Less than an hour later, they showed up at my apartment. All three of them, Mom, Dad, and Jared. I buzzed them up, figuring I might as well get this over with. My mom burst through the door first. "What's the meaning of this?" she demanded, waving her phone with my text on the screen. "I think it's pretty clear," I said. "You can't just cut us off like that," my dad said. "We're family. Family doesn't talk about each other like you talked about me." Jared stepped forward. "The hell you even mean? You're being dramatic." I pulled out my phone and played the recording. Their faces changed when they heard their own voices. When it finished, my mom's tone changed. "Sweetie, we were just having a bad day. You know we appreciate everything you do." "Look," my dad finally said, "everyone vents sometimes. That doesn't mean you abandon your family when they need you. Don't be a sensitive jerk. Need me or need my money?" My mom's face hardened. "This is how you repay us after all the sacrifices we made?" "What sacrifices exactly? The time you told my design professor I was just going through a phase? Or maybe when you skipped my graduation dinner to attend Jared's fake investment seminar?" Their tactics shifted quickly when they realized guilt wasn't working. "You ungrateful little crap," Jared snapped. "Who do you think you are? I'm the guy who's been bankrolling this family while you play businessman." My mom snapped, "This is why you'll never be successful. No loyalty, no understanding of what really matters. You're nothing without us." Jared spat. "You and your little drawings." "Get out," I said, opening my door. "When you want to have a real relationship that doesn't involve my bank account, maybe we can talk. Until then, we're done." As they left, my mother turned back. "You'll regret this. Blood is thicker than water." "Apparently not thicker than money," I replied, closing the door. After they left, I sat down on my couch and waited for the guilt to hit me, the regret. Well, it never came. Instead, I felt like I'd been carrying this massive weight for years and finally put it down. For the first time in my life, I felt like I could actually breathe. I slept better that night than I had in years. No stress dreams about disappointing my parents. No 3 o'clock in the morning anxiety about how I'd cover their next emergency while still paying my own bills. Just deep, restful sleep. For 2 weeks after I cut them off, I enjoyed the silence. Then the harassment started. Not guilt trips or apologies. Straight up mockery and threats. Jared texted from new numbers, "Dad's getting a promotion, and my new startup is about to get major funding. You'll regret this when we're rich, and you're still drawing pictures for a living." They even showed up at my studio unannounced. Walked in while I was with a client. My dad announced loudly, "We just wanted to let you know we're doing great without your handouts, and Jared here just got interest from 3 venture capitalists." Jared smirked. "Yeah, turns out we don't need you after all. You were always the useless one anyway." I calmly asked my client to excuse me for a moment, walked them to the lobby, and had security escort them out. As they were being led away, I caught my mom saying, "See, no backbone. He'll come crawling back when he realizes he needs family." The harassment didn't stop there. My parents started spreading lies about me to the extended family. Told everyone that I was ungrateful and selfish, that I'd abandoned them in their time of need. Some relatives believed them and started reaching out to check on me, really just to guilt me into reconnecting with my parents. Others were more skeptical, especially since my parents were suddenly asking them for loans. My aunt called me one night, confused. "Jim, your mom just asked to borrow $5,000 for home repairs. Didn't you just help them refinance their mortgage?" "Aunt, I'm going to tell you something, and then you can make your own decision about the loan." I explained about the years of financial exploitation, the nasty comments at the barbecue, the missed mortgage payments. She was quiet for a moment. "You know, your mother said similar things about your cousin Zach when he moved to Oregon, that he was abandoning the family. Now I'm starting to see a pattern." Word spread through the family. Most didn't take sides openly, but the loans my parents were requesting suddenly became harder to secure. Family gatherings got awkward, as relatives realized there were 2 very different versions of reality being presented. Through it all, my parents never once apologized, never acknowledged what they'd done, just kept insisting I was the problem. Ungrateful, mentally unstable, corrupted by my artistic lifestyle. Even when their stories fell apart, they doubled down rather than admit any wrongdoing. Meanwhile, I installed security cameras at my apartment and studio after Jared showed up drunk one night, pounding on my door and yelling that he'd make me pay for this. I got a restraining order after he tried it a second time. The family had officially imploded. The truth was finally out in the open, and I was as cool as a cucumber. With my family out of the picture, my business freaking exploded. Simple as that. No more $1,000 monthly drain meant I could reinvest that cash directly into better equipment and marketing. I upgraded my design software and finally got that drawing tablet I'd been eyeing for months. Hired a part-time virtual assistant to handle the admin stuff I hated. Started hosting design workshops at the local co-working space, which brought in a bunch of new clients. My portfolio grew quickly because I could actually focus without constant family drama draining my energy. I landed a craft brewery account that turned into a full rebrand worth $28,000. Then picked up a local tech startup that needed complete branding from logo to website. That's where I met Kai, a 32-year-old badass web developer who became both a collaborator and a good friend. Unlike my family, Kai actually respected what I did. We'd grab coffee after project meetings and talk shop for hours. "Your typography work is sick, man," he told me once. "That stuff you did for the brewery? That's not just design, that's art." It was weird hearing someone actually compliment my work instead of treating it like a joke. Kai started referring clients to me, and I'd bring him in on projects that needed web development. We became a killer team, able to offer clients complete packages. Branding, print design, and web. By month 4, I was turning down smaller jobs because my schedule was packed with high-paying clients. I moved from working solo to subcontracting with Kai and a photographer to offer clients complete packages. I was finally building something real. A proper design studio, not just me hustling alone. The extra income and mental space let me upgrade my life too. I bought a used BMW M3, always wanted one. Put a down payment on a condo with a home office. No more renting, just straight-up ownership. For once, I was living life on my terms. No family constantly undermining me, just me focusing on my craft and watching it pay off. The funny thing is, as soon as I stopped desperately seeking my parents' approval, my confidence in my work skyrocketed. I started taking more creative risks, pushing boundaries with my designs instead of playing it safe, and clients freaking loved it. One tech startup founder told me, "Your work has this edge to it now. It's bold, distinctive." He didn't know that the edge came from finally breaking free from people who'd spent years telling me I wasn't good enough. Within 6 months of cutting my family off, I doubled my income. Not by working more hours, actually I was working less, but by charging what I was worth and focusing on high-value clients. I invested in a proper studio space. A converted loft in an old industrial building downtown, exposed brick, huge windows, plants everywhere. A space that actually inspired creativity, instead of my cramped apartment corner desk. Hired 2 junior designers to help with overflow work. Brought on an actual business manager to handle the financial side since that wasn't my strength. Started an Instagram account showcasing our work that blew up. 50,000 followers in under a year. The business went from Jim the freelancer to Vertex Design Studio, a legit operation with multiple team members and clients waiting in line to work with us. We even had to implement a wait list because demand was so high, and my personal life improved too. Started hitting the gym regularly, reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with during the years I was drowning in family drama, even started dating again. Met this amazing photographer named Mia at an industry event, who actually thought what I did was cool. For the first time in my life, I was surrounded by people who valued me for who I actually was, not who they wanted me to be. People who saw my creativity as an asset, not a liability. During all those months, my cousin Zach kept me updated on the family situation. Not that I asked, but he figured I should know. "Your parents had to cancel their country club membership," he texted one day. "Your dad's trying to sell his golf clubs on Facebook Marketplace. A few weeks later, Jared moved back in with your parents. Says it's temporary while his business deal finalizes." Then the bombshell came. Jared got arrested for running an investment scam targeting older people at their church. Not even sophisticated fraud, just straight up taking money for fake investments and blowing it on bars. "Your mom's working checkout at Kroger now," Zach told me. Still telling everyone it's just until Jared's legal misunderstanding gets cleared up. The final news was the most telling. They've been asking literally everyone in the family for loans. Your parents owe like $30,000 to various relatives now. Nobody's getting paid back. Their golden family image was shattered. Relatives who used to worship them were comparing notes about how much money they'd been scammed out of. And there I was, booking my biggest client yet, a regional bank's complete rebrand worth $175,000. No family drama, no distractions, just pure focus on my work. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel a tiny bit of satisfaction hearing about their downfall. Not because I wanted them to suffer, but because it validated what I'd known all along. Their whole life was built on lies and appearances. Without me funding their facade, the truth was finally visible to everyone. Jared's arrest was the final straw for most of the extended family. Turns out, he'd convinced 3 elderly church members to invest in his fake startup, taking their retirement funds and spending it all on designer clothes and fancy restaurants, where he'd try to impress potential business partners. When they started asking about returns on their investment, he kept making excuses until one of them finally contacted the authorities. My parents, true to form, refused to acknowledge reality. They told everyone it was a misunderstanding that would be cleared up any day now. That Jared was being persecuted because he was too successful, too young, and people were jealous. That he was just like Elon Musk, misunderstood by the mainstream. But this time, nobody was buying their nonsense. The church members Jared had scammed were respected pillars of the community, people who'd known my parents for decades. The evidence was overwhelming, and Jared was facing actual criminal charges. In desperation, my parents started selling off their status symbols. The luxury car got downgraded to a used sedan. Designer clothes appeared on consignment shop racks. They even put their house on the market, claiming they were downsizing for retirement, rather than admitting they could no longer afford the mortgage. My mom, who had never worked a day in her life because she thought it was beneath her, had to take a cashier job at the local grocery store. My dad, who'd spent years pretending he was an executive, was now working night shifts as a security guard at an office building. Their social circle evaporated overnight. The same people they'd spent decades impressing with their fake success suddenly wanted nothing to do with them. Country club friends stopped returning their calls. Neighbors crossed the street to avoid conversation. Church members whispered when they walked by. Meanwhile, my studio was featured in a major design publication. We won 3 industry awards in 1 year. I was invited to speak at a national conference about branding strategy. Every success felt sweeter because I'd achieved it on my own terms, without their help or approval. I didn't gloat, didn't post about my success where they might see it, didn't try to rub it in their faces, just quietly built the life I wanted while they faced the consequences of their choices. But part of me was waiting for the inevitable moment when they'd finally swallow their pride and reach out. It took almost a year, but that moment finally came. Nearly a year after cutting them off, I came back from a client meeting to find my parents and Jared sitting in the lobby of my studio building. Security called up, saying they'd been there for 3 hours waiting.
Want me to escort them out?
The guard asked. Nah, send them up, I replied. When they walked in, I barely recognized them. My dad's designer clothes were replaced with Walmart jeans and a faded polo with a coffee stain. My mom's perfect hair now showed gray roots. Jared looked the worst, unshaven, wearing a hoodie that looked slept in. I didn't offer them seats, just leaned against my desk, arms crossed. Studio closes in 10 minutes. My dad got straight to the point. Son, we need $38,000 by Friday or we lose the house. The bank won't extend anymore. Jared also has legal fees. My mom added, investment misunderstanding. You mean fraud, I corrected. My dad cut in. Look, we've made mistakes. We know that. But we're still family. I looked at them for a long moment, sighed deeply, walked over to my desk, and sat down. Let me look at my accounts, I said finally, opening my laptop. They looked at each other with hopeful smiles. Maybe we can set up a payment plan, my dad suggested eagerly. We'll pay you back every cent. I nodded thoughtfully, clicking through my banking app. I do have some funds available, just need to move some things around. I turned the screen toward them. The 6-figure balance was more than enough to save them, not a dime for the people who laughed behind my back. My dad was staring at the number. My mom smiled. Oh, Jim, we knew you wouldn't abandon us. I closed the app and shut my laptop. But I won't. Then there was awkward silence. What do you mean? My dad finally asked. We're about to be homeless. Your own parents? I leaned forward. Remember what you said after I cut you off? That you didn't need my pathetic money? That you were downsizing by choice? That I was useless anyway?" Their faces went pale. My dad's desperation turned to anger. "So that's it? You're just going to let us lose everything?" "You already lost everything worth having," I said, checking my watch. "You lost your useless son, too. Security will escort you out. Please, Jim, we'll pay you back, we promise." I actually laughed. "Just like you paid back Uncle Dave, Aunt Lisa, Cousin Zach?" The shock on their faces confirmed what I already knew. They thought nobody was comparing notes. "Get out," I said, pressing the security call button. "Don't come back." And since that day, I stopped hearing from them. Heard through my aunt that they had to move to a smaller apartment. Jared was still facing charges. In short, screwed. So, tell me, Reddit. Am I the asshole? Did I make the right choice? Because for me it feels right. I earned every penny in my account with my useless career. I've got 400 clients waiting, a downtown condo, and not a single regret.